I'd left the city late, the kind of late where everything past the highway signs feels unmoored. My sedan hummed steadily over the asphalt, the tires whispering over cracks and patches that glimmered faintly under the intermittent moonlight. The radio had died hours ago, and the only sound was the steady drone of the engine and the occasional gust of wind through the slightly cracked window. It was then that I noticed it. A car, approaching from the opposite direction, or so I thought, but its headlights were pointed backward, toward me. The beams were stark and white, slicing across the road in an unnatural cone that should have been behind it. At first, I convinced myself it was a trick of perspective, the way the road curved just so, or maybe my eyes were playing with the shadows cast by the trees leaning over the asphalt. I blinked. My headlights fell on the road again. I tried to trace the path of the oncoming vehicle. Its outline was normal, a sedan, maybe, the shape indistinct in the dark, but the angle of its lights was impossible. They illuminated the black pavement behind it, bouncing off cracks and loose stones in ways that made the surface seem almost wet, though the air was dry. I shook my head, muttering to myself. "I'm tired," I said aloud, though the sound of my voice felt foreign in the empty night. I pulled slightly to the shoulder, the tires crunching against gravel, trying to see if I had misread the angle. By the time I looked up, the car had passed, or, rather, it should have passed, but the impression remained. The backward lights receded into the distance at the right speed, but the glow lingered longer than it should have, as if the beams were stretching across time itself. I tried to tell myself it was a reflection, maybe a warped headlight, some oddity of modern cars. Yet my stomach knotted when I saw the way the trees, shadows bent toward me, opposite to the light that should have been receding. The road grew longer. My speedometer read 80, but the horizon seemed to stretch impossibly, as if I were driving in a tunnel of night. Another car appeared, distant, its headlights reversed again. This time, I saw it more clearly, the sedan was an exact shape of mine. The lights bounced backward over the asphalt, illuminating the road I had already passed. I yanked my eyes to the rearview mirror. My own reflection looked normal at first, pale and tired under the dashboard lights. Then I noticed a pair of lights behind me, dim at first, and unmistakably pointing backward. My heart thumped. I told myself to breathe, rationalize, to not let the darkness and isolation twist my senses. Yet the lights followed, keeping the same distance, maintaining the same backward glow. I turned my gaze to the side mirrors. Nothing. No one. I checked again. Still empty. I looked forward. The highway stretched straight, black and silent, the trees mere silhouettes against the faint stars. When I blinked, the backward light car appeared again, emerging over a rise, impossible, where no hill or dip should have allowed another vehicle to manifest. I pressed the accelerator, trying to outrun it. The lights behind me brightened, reflecting off the paint of my car in a way that should have been physically impossible. The road under my tires flickered oddly, as if the surface itself were lagging behind my motion, a trail of shadows stretching and contorting unnaturally. My phone's screen lit up briefly when I tried to check the GPS. The map spun slowly, as if the car I was in wasn't moving, or worse, the road itself was flowing backward beneath me. I slammed the phone down. The lights behind me pulsed once, twice, in perfect rhythm with my own racing heartbeat. I tried to reason. Maybe it was fatigue, maybe a hallucination. But as I glanced forward, the backward light car came into view again. Its movement was synchronized with mine. If I sped up, it sped up. If I slowed, it slowed. I swerved slightly, and its path adjusted. The trees bent toward it, or maybe away from me, I could no longer tell. Shadows stretched wrong, elongated, folded over themselves. I thought about stopping, but fear rooted me in the seat. I could feel the hum of the engine vibrating against my chest, the tires gripping the worn asphalt, and yet time itself seemed to fluctuate around me. The car behind mirrored me perfectly, yet remained impossibly detached, both a reflection and a separate presence. Then the first anomaly I couldn't ignore occurred, a flash in my rearview. It wasn't light reflecting off metal, it was me. I saw my own face in the rear lights, pale, eyes wide and unblinking, mouthing something I couldn't hear. I jerked my head. The face vanished, replaced by the backward headlights that now seemed closer than physically possible. Panic overtook me. I took the next turn sharply, tires screaming, but when I looked forward, the road straightened. The car was there again, no deviation, perfectly aligned with my path. The lights were brighter now, each pulse synchronized with my own heartbeat, and with each flash, I felt a strange pull, like gravity bending not just around me, but through memory itself. I tried to think of when I had last driven this stretch. It should have been hours ago. Weeks ago. The memory wavered. Names of towns, road signs, even my own destination slipped through my mental fingers. Each time I glanced at the rearview, the backward light car mirrored my own reflection more closely. The face I had seen before now stared out through the windshield of the phantom sedan. Its eyes were mine. I screamed, and the sound seemed swallowed by the night, absorbed by the asphalt and trees. I braked, but the backward light car stopped in perfect sync, hovering just over the road behind me. When I looked into the rear view again, I saw not a car, but my own vehicle, idling empty, the headlights pointed backward. The pull became unbearable. My vision tunneled. I thought I could fight it, swerve, escape, but every motion I made was mirrored, inverted, preempted. The road stretched endlessly. The night pressed in, heavy and liquid. I realized the truth. I was no longer driving. I was being driven. By what? I didn't know, but the backward headlights revealed the impossible. I was both driver and observer, mirrored and reflected in a loop I could never break. The lights pulsed one last time, slow and deliberate, and I understood with a sudden, crushing certainty, this was not an anomaly of the road, not a trick of light or fatigue. This was me, chasing myself, trapped in a moment that had already happened, stretching into eternity. The asphalt shone backward under the headlights, and I was the only passenger. I blinked. The car passed me again. The lights were backward, and I realized, somewhere in the dark, some part of me was still driving. I never reached the next town. I don't think I ever will. I was driving later than I should have been, the kind of late where the edges of the world blur and the highway becomes a vein of black stretching into nothing. The GPS had been acting oddly for miles, flickering, recalculating endlessly, sometimes showing roads that didn't exist. My phone's battery was low, the screen dim and cracked, casting a pale glow across my lap. The highway was deserted. Fog hung low, rolling in sheets that dulled the asphalt beneath the headlights. The road was rough, patched over too many times, its fissures rattling the tires and steering wheel in uneven pulses. My sedan's dashboard lights flickered intermittently, leaving the cabin half lit in brief bursts, like the car itself was hesitant to illuminate the night. I was halfway between nothing and nowhere when I saw the first sign that made my stomach tighten. It wasn't a normal road sign. Its reflective paint caught my headlights in a way that made it almost gleam. I slowed. The words stared back at me. Elliot Gray, March 16, 2029. I slammed on the brakes, the tires skidding over worn asphalt, fog curling around the car like smoke. My hands shook. I stared at the sign, reading and rereading, trying to find some rational explanation. My name, in all caps, followed by a date I didn't recognize. Okay, I whispered to myself, trying to force my voice steady, this is a prank. Some kind of road sign prank. Maybe someone's idea of a joke. But there was no shoulder. No shoulder, no trees close enough to hide a human being, no overhang to support someone sneaking in a sign. Just fog and black asphalt stretching forward and backward. I eased the car forward, eyes on the road, telling myself I was imagining it. Maybe the cracks in the asphalt, the way the fog warped the headlights, made letters appear where there were none. But the name pressed at my brain, insistent, impossible. Half a mile down, another sign. Elliot Gray, the 4th of April 2027. I blinked, and my pulse hit my throat. The date had changed. I hadn't moved any faster or slower, I was certain of the distance I'd traveled. The fog pressed against the windshield, muffling sound and swallowing light. The reflection of the dashboard in the glass warped the road ahead, doubling the signs in faint overlays, like I was driving through memory itself. I tried to rationalize. Maybe it was a hallucination. Fatigue. Hunger. I had been driving for hours. I pressed the accelerator a little harder, the engine whining, tires rattling against the rough asphalt. Another sign appeared. Elliot Gray, the 9th of July 2023. Now the date was closer to the present, or maybe behind me. I couldn't tell. Time was slipping, folding over itself. I noticed then that the cracks in the asphalt seemed exaggerated, stretching longer, deeper, as if the road itself were reacting to my perception. I grabbed the steering wheel, knuckles white. My reflection in the windshield flickered with the flickering dash, my face pale, eyes wide, unblinking. For a moment, I thought I saw another face in the reflection, sitting in the passenger seat. When I looked, it was gone. Just fog curling outside the glass. I tried the GPS. It was useless. It kept recalculating, showing roads that curved impossibly, directions that couldn't exist. I swore I had been driving straight for hours. I glanced at the speedometer. 65 miles per hour. Yet the signs came faster now, one after another, each bearing my name and a new date. Elliot Gray, October 31, 2025. Elliot Gray, the 12th of December 2031. I couldn't remember what I was doing anymore. Each date tugged at my memory, and for a moment I wondered if I had been born on one of them, or if one marked my death. The fog thickened, clinging to the car like damp silk, and the road became uneven, fissured, almost breathing beneath the tires. I pressed on, the headlights piercing just enough fog to glimpse the next sign. Elliot Gray, March 16, 2029. I froze. The first sign. The same as the one that had sent me spiraling into this panic. The road hadn't curved. The mileage made no sense. I checked the odometer. Nothing. It hadn't moved enough to account for the repetition. Then I noticed something new. Small details along the roadside, subtle at first, familiar yet impossible. A lamppost, bent the way my childhood lamp leaned in my bedroom. A mailbox with the peeling paint of my first apartment. The fog wrapped around them, isolating each object as though the highway were molding itself to my memory. I tried to rationalize. It had to be a dream. I pinched my arm, pressed my palm to my cheek. Everything was sharp, detailed, tactile. Not a dream. The road was responding. Or I was, and the asphalt itself had become a mirror of my mind. I accelerated, heart pounding. Each sign now flashed faster. The dates shifted, sometimes forward, sometimes backward, sometimes multiple at once. My own name became a drumbeat in the night, relentless, inescapable. The fog thickened into a wall. The headlights illuminated the next sign before I could react. Elliot Gray, March 23, 2026. My hands were shaking. That date. The current date. Today. But it wasn't today, not really. I couldn't be sure anymore. My reflection stared back at me, and I realized with a jolt that my eyes were wrong. Darker, emptier, and I could see the faint outlines of another me behind them, following, waiting. The signs kept appearing, and now they weren't only on the roadside. They materialized ahead in the asphalt itself, etched faintly into the cracks, glowing slightly under the headlights. I tried to turn, tried to escape, but every exit curved back into the same stretch of highway, every turn led to another sign. The road had become a loop, a personal history in concrete and fog. I thought about stopping, parking, waiting, but the next sign was already there, reflected in the rearview mirror before I could see it on the road ahead. Elliot Gray, March 23, 2026. This time, I didn't blink. I realized with a chill that the date wasn't random. It was set. It was the date I had been moving toward, unknowingly. My mind raced, pulling at memory threads, trying to recall any moment that matched it. But the memory wasn't mine, or not fully. It was waiting for me, a destination my consciousness had not yet reached. The fog shifted, revealing the road ahead. There was no one behind me. No other cars. No streetlights. Just the road, cracked and alive, stretching toward the horizon. Yet in every reflection, every glance at the mirrors, I saw signs, dates, versions of myself, each step echoing inevitability. The final sign appeared abruptly, leaning as though it had grown from the earth itself. I stopped the car. Tires hissed against worn asphalt. I pressed my face to the windshield. The letters glowed faintly. Elliot Gray, March 23, 2026. And beneath it, almost too small to notice at first. Arrival confirmed. I realized then that the date wasn't a record of the past. It was a promise. A future already written into the road, into the asphalt, into me. I tried to back up. The tires spun, but the car didn't move. I tried to honk. No sound came. The fog rolled in thicker, blinding, and in the reflection of the rearview mirror, I saw the empty highway behind me, and then myself, stepping out of the car. The sign's glow pressed through the fog, warm and insistent. The asphalt whispered my name. The date burned itself into my consciousness. And I understood. I had always been driving here, always been following the signs, always been approaching the moment I could never escape. I pressed the accelerator one last time. The tires gripped. The car leapt forward, but the road stretched endlessly, each sign a heartbeat, each date a drum in a rhythm I could not resist. I was the sign. I was the date. And the highway was mine.